This is Vermont Edition. I'm Michaela Lafrac. About 6% of Vermonters are veterans, nearly 39,000 people as of 2 years ago. Many veterans face mental and physical challenges because of experience they had while serving, and often have to navigate complex legal systems to make sure they're receiving the benefits that they are entitled to. Ahead of ahead of Veterans Day tomorrow, we're going to take some time this hour to learn about some really important and unique local programs for vets. You can also find out about local Veterans Day parades, ceremonies, meals, and more on vermontpublic.org. Our newsroom put together a really comprehensive guide of Veterans Day events in our region. Joining me in the studio today is Misha Pemble-Belkin. He's the coordinator of a veterans program for Vermont Adaptive Ski and Sports. They run year-round sports and rec programs for people with cognitive, developmental, physical, and emotional disabilities. And Misha served in the Army as a paratrooper from 2006 to 2015. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for being here. We're also joined by Donald Hayes, who's the director of the Vermont Veterans Legal Assistance Project at Vermont Law and Graduate School. He's also volunteered as a ski instructor with New England Healing Sports Association. Don, welcome.
Hi, good morning. Thank you.
Yeah. And listeners, if you or someone close to you has served in the military, we would love to hear today about the programs that have helped you the most. Or maybe there's a type of program or service that you wish existed but haven't been able to find. Our guests might be able to help you this hour. You can give us a call at 800-639-2211 or send us an email to vermontedition@vermontpublic.org. Misha, as I just mentioned, you served in the Army. Could you tell us a little bit about your 9 years of service? Where were you deployed?
I joined the Army in 2006. I was sent down to Fort Benning, Georgia for basic infantry training and then airborne school. And then after that, I got orders to Vicenza, Italy, where I was stationed for 4 years with the 173rd Airborne. During that time, I was deployed to Kunar province of Afghanistan for 15 months, and then came back from that. After that, I was sent down to Fort Polk, Louisiana as an instructor, training people to deploy. And eventually, I got the deployment itch, and I needed to go back to Afghanistan because I was passionate about what we were doing over there. And so I reached out to old commander, and he said, hey, 25th Infantry is about to deploy back to Kunar province. I knew the language well enough. I knew the terrain. I knew the people. I knew the culture. And I'm like, okay, I want to get sent back to an area that I knew just so I could be the most effective at what we were doing over there. And so I re-enlisted to go to 25th Infantry, deployed again with them in 2011-12 for a 12-month deployment. I was injured 3 months into that deployment. I didn't know at the time when I was injured. I came back with a cervical spine injury and some shoulder damage. And then eventually I couldn't do this job anymore, so I was medically retired out of the service and moved up to Vermont at that time.
Why Vermont?
I wanted to fall off the grid. As a lot of Vermont veterans do, we have a high population of Vietnam veterans, Iraq and Afghan veterans. A lot of them didn't grow up in Vermont. From doing the work I do with Vermont Adaptive, I found a lot of them migrated here from other states, and it's to kind of fall off the grid because you could isolate up here, up in the hills. And so I was lucky enough when I came up here, it wasn't working out too well for me at the VA. I had tried all the modalities of treatment, all the mental health treatments, everything like that, and we kind of came to the conclusion I had kind of seen too much combat, and those modalities just weren't going to work for me. And I was lucky enough that a VA peer support up at Burlington Lakeside Clinic saw me walking out, and he actually served with my platoon sergeant in Kosovo.
Wow. And
so he's like, hey, man, I know who you are. I served with Pops there, and he's like, what do you need? And I'm like, I need to, I'm starting a homestead. I need some help on it. He came out and helped me on this homestead. And during that time, around 2016, he had pitched to Vermont Adaptive if they could do a weekly program for veterans. And Vermont Adaptive jumped right onto it and said, yep, we'll do programming every Thursday out of Bolton Valley. They have always served veterans, Vermont Adaptive has, since 1987, but there was never a specific program for the veteran population, like a weekly program. And so in 2016, in conjunction with the VA, they started bringing vets to Bolton Valley every Thursday for programs. And this peer support's like, hey, would you like to go snowboard or ski? I grew up out west in Oregon. I'm like, oh, I love snowboarding. I needed to kind of knock that rust off myself. Wanted to isolate. I didn't want to be around people. I was pretty, distant. And so I was able to go up to Bolton Valley, no strings attached, signed the waivers. They sent a volunteer out with me just to see if I knew what I was doing. And I started snowboarding again. I started knocking that rust off myself. I started to feel a little better. And I'm like, I really like what they're doing, working with these kids with disabilities, adults with disabilities. And so I started volunteering with them. And while I was going to college at CCV, I needed a college internship. I reached out to Vermont Adaptive. I said, hey, do you have an internship? And they provide college internships for people that are going through school. And so they hired me right on and said, here's our veteran program in 2017. They're like, see what you can do with it, pretty much. And they kind of gave me this program at Seed State and kind of just allowed me to run with it. And at the end of my first year of interning with Vermont Adaptive, they're like, would you stay on with us and continue to run this program? And I said, sure, of course. And so I switched my degree path from going to school to be a physician's assistant to recreational therapy. And I've been able to do this program since 2017, and I've grown it into one of the state's largest veteran-serving nonprofits. Not only just all people with disabilities we serve, we become one of the state's largest veteran-serving nonprofits.
And Misha, you moved up here to go off, to fall off the grid, as you said, and now you're running this massive program that's all focused on connecting people to one another and to the outdoors. There's a beautiful irony in that. Don, I know you're not a veteran, but you have a family that has a deep military history. Is that how you got into this work, your familial connections?
Well, to some extent. I'm a graduate of Vermont Law Graduate School, and I really value clinical and experiential education. And there was an opportunity that opened up here at the clinic to run the Veterans Legal Assistance Project. And, I'm a big believer in using the law for good. And, you mentioned at the onset 39,000 veterans in Vermont, many of whom are legally underserved. And I saw a really good opportunity for me to kind of mix two of my passions, one being teaching and the other being, using the law for good. I do have family members. My dad served in the Army during the Korean War. I've got a brother that's in the Air Force, a nephew that's a career airman, nephews that are Army National Guard. So it's always been important. I myself did not serve, but I really look at this as a way to, kind of give back to those who have.
You said that a lot of veterans are legally underserved. What exactly does that mean?
Well, I think there are barriers to, we often talk about access to justice and the barriers that are out there. And, there are a lot of barriers. It could be, financial barrier. It could be, as Misha mentioned, a lot of people come up to Vermont to isolate, so it could just be a lack of those connections that really help serve some of those unmet legal needs. So I think there are a lot of reasons that the population is disproportionately underserved. And that's really kind of the spirit behind our program, and we've got a lot of benefactors who see the value in doing what we do, but really it's about providing access to those legal services to the veteran community.
So what are
help them overcome those barriers.
Yeah, what are some of the most common questions that people come to you in your legal clinic with? Is it questions about specific services that they need or types of support?
So we are a full-on law office. We have second and third year law students who work at the clinic, as student attorneys. We have 4, including myself, 4 supervising attorneys, and we do a variety of stuff. We do veteran-specific things, VA benefit, compensation claims, so appeals and things of that nature. We do discharge upgrades. So Misha is certainly familiar with the discharge status and how important that is when you're coming out of the military. So we assist veterans who have bad paper, so to speak, other than honorable or general under honorable condition discharges, upgrade those discharges. But then we handle a whole host of civil matters. We do bankruptcies, we do simple estate planning, we do expungements, landlord-tenant, foreclosure defense. We do SSI and SSDI appeals. So the calls that we get, we have a lot of referral partners out there, and they refer matters to us, and they know the kind of things that we handle. So a lot of the referrals are really, pigeonholed into one of those practice areas.
Mm-hmm.
We do a lot of VA benefit appeal work, I have to say, and we do a good bit of consumer bankruptcy work as well.
Sounds like a lot of paperwork to have to deal with when you're coming back from a deployment and also a potentially traumatic experience. Misha, hearing Dawn talk about this, does that bring up any memories for you of coming back and being like, oh my gosh, to be able to I kind of live in the world now. I have to figure out how a lot of different complex systems and government offices work.
I was lucky in a way that I was medically retired out of the service, so I didn't just get discharged. So there was a little bit of help back then. I've heard it's gotten better. They have internship programs as you're getting out of the service to help the reintegration process and stuff like that. But it was a process. I went through a struggle of I lived down the bed of my pickup truck down in Louisiana for 4 months, transitioned up to Vermont, picked apples at an apple orchard, worked at Lowe's just to keep food on the table, and eventually, I started to get grounded and went back to school and started working with Vermont Adaptive. So it took about 5-6 years to finally get feeling a little bit stable.
Yeah. One thing that stands out to me about both of your stories is that you both are in a way representing Vermont higher ed institutions. Dawn, you're with Vermont Law and Graduate School, and Misha, you went to CCV. And I'm curious to hear about how you feel like both those institutions are doing at supporting veterans who enter their programs. Dawn, do you have any folks working in your law clinic who are veterans themselves?
This semester, of the 16 students that I have, I do not, but it seems as though every semester we do.
Yeah.
And actually, you may be familiar with Vermont's online hybrid JD program. We've got a very big class, and I would say 30% of that class is either a veteran or veteran adjacent, a family member, or a spouse, I should say, or a partner that is a service member. So it is a place for folks to land, particularly people are trying to figure out, what to do with a law degree after law school. Learning about veterans law is a big way to, to some extent it helps bridge a gap for a lot of students.
And Misha, how about you with CCV? I know you said that you switched around the program that you were in order to pursue this work with Vermont Adaptive. Do they provide financial support for veteran students too?
Yeah, I was able to utilize Voc Rehab through the VA system since I was medically retired, and that was a great program. And CCV was wonderful to go to. I like the smaller class settings. The professors were all wonderful there. I had a great time at CCV. It was great, and I switched my degree path twice while I was there because I started PA, RN, and then rec therapy. And so it was great programs there.
Yeah. Well, we have to take a short break, but I want to hit the slopes when we come back and hear about the work that the both of you have done with veterans who and other folks who have special needs who are trying to get outdoors and enjoy this beautiful scenery that we live in here in our region. If you or someone close to you served in the military, call in and tell us about the types of community programs that helped you all the most. Our number is 800-639-2211. We have to take a short break, but we'll take your calls when we come back. Stay with us.
Thanks for listening to Vermont Edition, where support comes from UVM Cancer Center, sharing that November is Lung Cancer Awareness Month. Learn how lung screening can save lives at vermontcancer.org.
Welcome back to Vermont Edition. I'm Michaela Lafrac. This hour, we're discussing special supports in our region that are available to veterans. It's Veterans Day tomorrow. Our guests are Don Hayes, the director of the Vermont Veterans Legal Assistance Project at Vermont Law and Graduate School, and Misha Pemble-Belkin, the coordinator of Veterans Program for Vermont Adaptive Ski and Sports. Misha served in the Army from 2006 to 2015. And there's lots going on in our region to mark Veterans Day tomorrow. In Bellows Falls, the American Legion Post 37 is going to host their annual Veterans Day celebration at 5:30 p.m. And Stowe's customary Veterans Day breakfast begins at 8:30 at Stowe Middle and High School, followed by a service at 11. And there's lots more events. You can find them on our newsroom's guide at vermontpublic.org. Misha, tell us about some of the programs that you all are running for veterans through Vermont Adaptive Ski and Sports. There's so many different sports and recreational activities that folks can do. There's pickleball, there's skiing. You're a snowboarder, right? Yep.
So we've been, our programs are wide in the spectrum of things. I've been able to do over 15, just this year we've been able to do over 1,500 individual activities, served over 213 veterans, and 7 multi-day retreats. And so those programs consist of ice climbing, skiing, snowboarding, snowshoeing, cross-country skiing, backcountry skiing, avalanche training, paddling, cycling, mountain biking, pickleball, apple picking. And so we just wrapped up our Vietnam Veterans Retreat. And so every November around Veterans Weekend, we do a retreat to honor Vietnam veterans, because when they came home, they weren't honored. And a lot of those veterans, I was talking to them this week, and we had a nurse that was there, and she served some hard times in Vietnam. And she, and she came home and wasn't recognized, wasn't honored until like the 80s or 90s. They didn't recognize her type of service or the PTSD that she experienced and stuff like that. Another vet from this retreat was we had 2 drafted vets. Both were injured in combat. We had another vet who was, didn't even recognize his service, didn't want anything to do with the VA, didn't want to be recognized as a veteran until he started coming to Vermont Adaptive Veterans Programs about 7 years ago.
Oh.
And so we've been lucky enough to do this Vietnam Veterans Retreat, and my goal is to show them the honor that they deserve, that they did not receive when they came home.
I know that the majority, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I believe the majority of veterans living in Vermont are older than 65. And you're mentioning Vietnam veterans. Are there still a good number of like sports and outdoor activities that you all are offering that are available to folks who might be getting into their 70s, 80s, 90s?
Oh, yeah. We had about 10 out of the 12 veterans took a hike at Mount Ellen on Saturday. They hiked right up the mountain. They wanted to get out, go walking. One of them still volunteers with us and takes kids out with disabilities a couple times a week, all year long, cycling, skiing. He's still teaching. We have an 86-year-old volunteer that was a Vietnam era veteran that's on one of our volunteers, still teaching people how to teleski.
Wow.
Which is crazy, right? Getting
That's
down
awesome.
like that. And so they're still getting out there. And then I try to cast a wide net of the programs I offer. So I will do bowling, apple picking to, if somebody doesn't have the mobility anymore to go do sports, but where they can come out and still have a good time, chat with their friends, reconnect with other veterans, to go climbing Mount Washington this winter and learning how to survive an avalanche. And so I try to cast a wide net to serve as many veterans in Vermont as possible. And so we've been able to get Korean War veterans out to young vets that are still coming back from deployments today.
What a special way to connect generations. That's incredible. As I just mentioned, more than half of vets in Vermont are 65 or older. Don, I'm curious how that aging of the veterans population in Vermont affects you all and your work. Like, are you all more focused on some programs that are specifically for people as they age?
Sure. One of the big things that we do, and I failed to mention it, but it's actually one of probably the top unmet legal needs that we've identified, is simple estate planning. So I just had a client meeting this morning to discuss an estate plan. So we do a lot of estate planning work. We also, just when it comes to benefits, as people do get older, you're absolutely right. I mean, more than half the veteran population in Vermont is over the age of 65. And, there's legacy planning. What can I do with my benefits? Where are my benefits? Are they in such a position that if I leave a surviving spouse, that surviving spouse will also receive, compensation on an ongoing basis? So, it does change it does change the frame of analysis to some extent, the age of the veteran that we're serving. But it does span the spectrum. People that are in their 20s who've been in service and have come back with various issues. The level of service is the same for them as well.
And Don, I know that you've also volunteered on the side as a ski instructor with New England Healing Sports Association, which does also work with some veterans. Could you tell us a little bit about the work that they do?
Yeah, so NESA program has been around for a while. I actually did do a year at Vermont Adaptive. I've been teaching adaptive skiing for about 30 years. Throughout New England and in Pennsylvania, where prior to moving to Vermont, I lived in Pennsylvania. We have a program at NESA the second week in January 12th through the 15th, and it's basically our winter sports clinic for veterans with disabilities. Similar to, the programs that Vermont Adaptive offers, it's just an opportunity to get a lot of veterans together to share that fellowship, but also to engage in a whole host of winter activities. We do indoor kayaking, we do the skiing, of course. There's, some Nordic events as well that are scheduled throughout the week. And it's a pretty popular program, and usually the week goes by in a blink of an eye.
Is that how your retreats feel too, Misha? Do they fly by?
Yeah, they fly by, but there's a lot of build-up, a lot of anxiety. It takes months and months to plan out these retreats based on people's mobility, lodging, meals, accommodations, activities that all meet the needs of each individual that's showing up to these events, so nobody gets left out, the adaptation to all of this. And so it's a lot of planning, but then all of a sudden it's like, boom, it's just quick and it's done. I'm really tired, though, from this past weekend.
Well, thank you for being here after that big weekend. Well, we have been talking a bit about some of the adaptive sports that folks, specifically veterans, can do on the mountains in our region. But of course, there are many other outdoor activities available, including spending time with horses. Calling in now are John Curtis and Kate Adams. They run a Scutney Mountain Horse Farm, which is in Perkinsville. John, Kate, welcome.
Well, thank you. We're glad to be here.
Thank you.
So tomorrow you're hosting a free event for veterans, first responders, and family and friends. Kate, can you tell us a little bit more about what you'll be offering?
Yes, we call it an open barn, but this one's going to go all day. We're hosting from 9 to 3. In the morning, there'll be coffee, refreshments, whatever, and then a gathering time. And we will focus in the morning on sharing the horses and learning how to connect with them. And folks will have a chance to groom and lead horses if they'd like. We're going to provide, John, you tell about providing a lunch and then the bird program afterwards.
Yes, we're going to have a free lunch, homemade stew with bread, and after lunch and some fellowship, we're going to take a tour of the birdhouses that are put up around here and have an activity of actually making birdhouses or bird feeders, and it'll be a lot of fun.
And John, you served yourself in Vietnam. As a veteran, what makes working with horses such a potentially powerful experience?
Oh my gosh! It just walking into the barn next to one of the horses is you can feel the calmness of the atmosphere, and they're just you feel it. I feel at ease. I feel open. I don't feel any threatening. Horses are totally safe, and just that connection. Mm-hmm. They're non-judgmental, and they're just comfortable.
Misha, I'm wondering if that's how you feel when you're on the mountains.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel at a state of flow on the mountains. That's my place I feel the most comfortable and at peace. And we also do, we've been working with horses for a long time. I did it while I was in the service through some mental health therapies I used. It was equine therapy, and we just hosted an event at Moonrise Therapeutics in Taftsville for the Vietnam vets that showed up on this retreat. And it's this, the horses will match your energy, right? And so you feel this, you could see when you come up to the horse will, if you're anxiety, the horse is going to feel that anxiety. So the horse is going to turn away from you. It might put its ears back. It might put its ears forward. It's kind of mirroring your energy, but the horse lives in the moment, right? And so when you're coming up to this horse, you're like, what's wrong with me? And you could self-internalize that, right? Mm. And you're like, okay, I have this anxiety, I have this stress going on. And you could do those controlled breaths that you learn. You could breathe with the horse. You could put your hands on the horse. You could rest on the horse. And then all of a sudden you feel yourself calm as the horse calms with you, and it mirrors that energy. So all of a sudden you're working with that horse, and it's just like you kind of get that self-awareness of yourself with the horse. It's a beautiful thing working with horses.
Jon, is that what working with horses has been like for you?
Yes, exactly. They it almost seems like they synchronize with your heartbeat and your breathing, and it's just totally relaxing.
Mm. Kate, do you have any advice for folks who might be interested in going to a program like yours, visiting a farm like yours, but didn't grow up with horses and might be afraid?
Oh, yes, because I even remember when I was afraid of them. And horses are big, and people do have accidents, and people could get hurt. And what I do is encourage people when they come is to say, we're going to first learn about horses' view the world and how we need to be around them for them to feel safe, which also keeps us safe as we understand more how they perceive the world and how they have to protect themselves, and how we can be present with them in a way that helps them feel safe. And if you don't feel safe, I don't push anyone to try to go touch a horse. I explain and show and model and give people opportunity. But I, as a survivor myself of trauma, not from overseas wars, but from domestic violence, I am very aware of how our being can be programmed to triggers that go to the trauma. And the horses, over decades now, have helped me survive trauma when I was in the abusive marriage, but then to get out and learn to heal and learn to grow healthy boundaries, healthy patterns, and to be aware when I'm being triggered. I sometimes, even now, still will have something that'll trigger me. Mm-hmm. And I will sometimes, like I just did with my horse Leo, who came to me as a programmed, abused horse, traumatized, but he's now medicine horse. He has learned, he has healed. And I just went out and said, I'm having kind of a rough morning right now. Could I just lean myself into your neck and just feel your goodness? And because I know you know about my anxiety, and you're going to help me remember how to let go of it.
Oh, they can bring that sense of calm. If that feels like something that you're looking for in your life and you're a veteran or a friend or family member of a veteran, you can learn more about the Ascutney Mountain Horse Farm in Perkinsville on their website, or Vermont Public's guide for Veterans Day events on vermontpublic.org. Jon Curtis and Kate Adams, thank you so much for joining us and telling us about your work.
Thank you for letting us. We
Yeah.
just encourage people to come, look, watch, go sit by the pond, touch a horse if you feel like you want to. Try that.
That sounds pretty nice. Thank you so much, Kate. We just got an email from Josh who wants to give a shout out to the Veterans Affairs Clinic in Burlington, which does a wonderful job of taking care of veterans such as myself, Josh writes. I served in the Marine Corps from 1986 to 1990. We also have Robert Burke calling in from Cabot, the Director of Veterans Affairs for the state of Vermont. Robert, thanks for calling in. What's this conversation bringing up for you?
Hi, Michaela. Thanks for letting me join. And I want to say hi to Misha. Misha runs some great programs. I've gone to a couple of them myself. So there are a lot of resources for veterans, seeking mental and physical assistance, disabled veterans or anyone. So I certainly encourage people to seek those out because. As Misha has given you the information and the equine program that you just had on, there is help out there.
Yeah, there is. Well, Robert, thank you so much for calling in. I'm sorry we don't have too much more time to talk with you today, but we'd love to have you back on the show sometime soon. Dawn, I want to make sure that we have time for you to tell us a little bit about an event going on tomorrow, a day of learning for veterans at the Chase Community Center in South Royalton. What's going to be going on there?
So we do have, every year we do host a Veterans Day celebration. We usually accompany it with a lunch and learn segment, so an opportunity for folks in the community to learn about an issue, that's troubling the veteran community. So our program starts at the Chase Center at 9 o'clock and runs through the early afternoon. It's open to the public. We do a flag lowering at 11:11. Of course, and then we'll have an opportunity for fellowship in the afternoon.
Misha, I wonder what you like to do on Veterans Day. Does it feel like a day like any other day? Do you like to escape and get away from people, or do you attend one of these events we've been talking about today?
No, I tend to avoid going out around Veterans Day. I just kind of isolate on those days. I do projects and stuff like that. It's not a day I like to go out.
Yeah.
I don't like to receive the text messages thanking me for my service. I like to kind of just disappear from it.
It's an off-the-grid day for you.
Yeah. We just celebrated with the Vietnam vets, and I feel like that was enough for me this week. It was beautiful. It was special.
Yeah.
It was a wonderful event. Yeah.
For somebody who's listening and is a veteran and wants to perhaps attend one of these retreats that you all run through Vermont Adaptive, where can they find out more about them?
They could go on vermontadaptive.org. We have access under the programs tab. It'll list all of our veterans programs. There's a tab that says veterans under the programs. And every quarter I update a new flyer on there. So it lists about 3 programs a week I run. And then it also lists all the retreats that we are hosting during that time frame. As well, if you want to come volunteer with us, you could sign up to be a volunteer there. And as well, any person with disabilities can sign up as a participant through that website.
Well, I don't think there are many organizations that can say they can teach you how to survive an avalanche and play pickleball. So
That's right.
It's pretty impressive spread of events. All right, you can learn more about Vermont Adaptive Ski and Sports on their website. As Misha just said, Misha Pemble-Belkin runs veterans programs for that organization. Thank you so much for your time today, Misha.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you.
We are also joined by Don Hayes, the director of the Vermont Veterans Legal Assistance Project at Vermont Law and Graduate School. As we just mentioned, they'll be hosting an event tomorrow in South Royalton. Don, thank you so much for your time and for all you're doing there.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And a reminder that because Veterans Day is tomorrow, government offices and post offices will be closed, and Green Mountain Transit is going to be running a modified bus schedule. All right, let's take a minute here. Coming up, 7 Days music critic Chris Farnsworth knows all about the best emerging local musicians. He's going to tell us about some brand new albums that you might want to listen to this fall. This is Vermont Edition. Stay with us. Welcome back to Vermont Edition. I'm Michaela Lafrac. Vermont and the Northeast have always had a rich, creative music scene, and it keeps evolving. From time to time, we are going to be sharing new additions to the local music scene, new songs, new sounds, and the artists making them right here in our region. Here to do that in this ongoing series is Jon Ehrens, Vermont Edition's managing producer and a musician in his own right. He recently sat down with 7 Days music critic Chris Farnsworth to talk about a couple standout local acts that we think you should know about. I should also note that 7 Days recently published a review of an album of Jon's. All right, I'll hand it over to the guys.
Chris Farnsworth, music editor at 7 Days. Thanks for joining us on Vermont Edition today.
Thanks for having me, John.
You have brought us some selections of local music, some new releases, newish releases that have caught your ear. First up, you have brought us Astral Underground. What can you tell us about Astral Underground?
Astral Underground is an incredibly unique band. Incredibly unique. They are out of Enosburg Falls. I don't think you can say that about a lot of bands in general.
No, not at all.
I can think of one other, and that's Mountain Says No, one of whose member is in Astral Underground. Astral Underground has just the most interesting pedigree I think you could find in a band. They were based around a flautist, Margot Simmons. And Margot was in the 70s Afro-punk band, The Pyramids, which was really, really cool band that kind of was like 76 to 79 about. Really influential stuff. And Margot then went on to be an academic, but then retired and moved to Vermont. And there she met Ben Maddox, who runs this music coffee shop called The Flying Disc.
Rather elusive, I've heard, this place.
It's very elusive.
Yeah, that's very cool.
Yeah, you got to really should check before you go, make sure they're open and everything. But
that's
when you,
classic Vermont. You know?
Yes, that's true. It's like you just don't know. But it's very cool. And Ben is this guy who's been really involved in the Vermont music scene certainly since I've been here. I got here in 2001, and he was in this great band called Farm. So yeah, Ben and Margot met. Margot kind of brought in some Pyramid CDs and was like, "Have you ever heard of this?" And Ben was like, "What?"
Of course.
Like, what's happening?
I'm a huge nerd, and I know all the Afro-funk bands from the 70s, of course.
And they got together with John Notaro, who's a really great musician, multi-instrumentalist. He plays in some kind of heavier projects like Mushroom Teeth. These are really three very different musicians from three very different ways, and that's like 100%.
I happened to catch them, I went in blind. I went to a thing called Yaz Fest in Ferrisburg, which was thrown by J.B. Ledoux. But I saw this group, Astral Underground. A couple friends are saying, you got to check them out. It was interesting. I really like it when I see a band and I'm like, I don't know what they're up to here. What is the, a lot of times you go and you see something and you know what they're going for.
Right.
Almost right off the bat.
Yeah.
It's in this vein or in this lane, and it took a quarter of the way through the performance to finally be able to wrap my head around what was going on. And it did seem like three people from three different disciplines almost coming together.
It's wild to me because it's like my brain wanted to say it was like jazz, because that's like the boogeyman word for if I don't understand. But the more I listen to them, and especially on this new record, on this record, I do think they've pushed even a little further away from if there was a jazz basis, and I don't know if there was. I
had the same feeling about you. I thought, is this jazz? Are we jazz?
Yeah.
Well, let's take a listen and let listeners decide.
Yeah.
Is this jazz or Astral Underground jazz? All right. That was a little bit of Astral Underground, and the album is called Starstruck Guts with a Z.
With a Z.
She's shredding.
They just make these tapestries for Margot to go nuts on.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And it's funny because it's like I remember growing up in the 80s. I'm sure you remember some of this too. Like the guitar heroes were a thing, and people cared about like Yngwie Malmsteen and stuff, people who could shred. And I remember as a kid kind of thinking it was weird, like, don't you want like the song, right? Like the song. And I never quite liked the exhibitionists, like even if you like Victor Wooten and stuff like that, like I just would I'd be like, yeah, no, I get it. Like that is crazy impressive. I'm not enjoying this.
It's like you're a great athlete.
Yes.
More than a musician.
Totally. That's how it would feel with like a lot of these things. And so I always would struggle to find like a musician that I wanted to just like spend 6 minutes soloing. Turns out it's Margot. Like I'm like, oh yeah, no, I will listen to Cosmic Jazz Flute for like just go off. I'll just like, go girl, this is incredible.
Astral Jazz Flute.
The cosmic jazz explosion of Venusberg is upon us, and I'm so here for it.
On that topic, I mean, before we get to our next clip, just because I'm interested, I mean, as a music fan, yeah, I'm habituated from previous places that I've lived to a lot more concentration in where the things are happening. And I have noticed in Vermont, you might come here and say the music scene's not that big, but then you start going around the state and you're like, oh, well, Nico Case is up there, and Adrian Lenker's over here, and so is down there, and the shows are happening in barns and town halls such as Yazfest and things like that. Is that exciting or difficult or both for you as a music writer to like have to sort of survey such a disparate landscape? And it almost seems like find these people. I mean, some people are like literally hiding out.
Yeah. Some of them don't want you to find them.
They don't,
which is kind of funny.
Some of the aforementioned.
Yeah, some people do not want that. It's both exciting and difficult. Yeah, like you said, it's both for sure, and at the same time, you've got people who want you to know that and want you to come out and like, hey, I'm hearing, Windsor. Windsor has a lot of good bands. Like, why? Mm-hmm. Why does Windsor? But the whole What Doth Life crew down there really does a lot of great music. Mm-hmm. But you wouldn't. It's just wild that it's there. I mean, when you cover like I think cities that have these concentrated scenes, Philly is a great example like that. I think you can kind of accidentally lump people together. And what's nice about this is there's no danger of that. You actually like have to sort of struggle to create a cohesive scene if you want that. So it is weird, but it does make you really happy to like when you find them, because you're like, yeah, look what I did.
Right.
Look what I found.
Right. All right. So next we're going to talk about Greg Freeman, who is a rising star, it sounds like.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what I don't know what a rock star is anymore. I don't know what any of that means.
This is the atomization of information.
Yeah. We're all in our little Andy Warhol spheres now.
Right.
But I think as far as the modern rubric goes, he is like, or is on his way to being this sort of next indie rock cool thing. Because I think that's the apotheosis of rock now.
Indie.
Yeah, I think like.
How do we define that these days?
I have no clue because it's all indie, right? I mean, with as far as rock goes, I mean, nobody's walking around on Warner anymore. So yeah, I think that's like what kind of that Greg is like the next cool indie rock guy.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's listen to a song from his newest album, Greg Freeman. The album's called Burn Over, as is this song. So let's take a listen.
In the blue frozen morning, Valentine's Day parade, 20 striking firemen went walking out on that engine 85 brigade. And after 3 weeks with no contract, it's 3 weeks with no pay. I saw smoke out on the horizon, but heard no sirens gone that way.
That was Greg Freeman's song Burn Over, the titular track off of Burn Over, the album. When I hear it, I guess like when it comes to someone like a singer-songwriter, I don't want to like do comparisons to other. I mean,
Sure.
I hear certain things, but what strikes me, and especially like on the first track on this album, is like his voice is out of key, or like, it's like he's not in tune, but the production is perfect. That's a deliberate choice these days in
Yeah.
auto-tune. And I mean, we're like well past now we're in the AI era.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if that like resonates with people, or like this is gaining popularity because of that.
Interesting.
Everything can sound perfect if you want it to. And so it might resonate with people to hear someone who's, vulnerable.
Yeah.
Because they're putting their voice on record and it sounds out of key.
Yeah. I mean, I think there is definitely something to that for sure. As the newer generations are sort of coping with the advent of, like you said, auto-tune, and then certainly AI with this concept that music, particularly if you look at like pop music, visually and sonically, they're plastics too mean of a word, but it's just it's all very presented. And so I think when you listen to Greg's stuff, that crack in the voice, that pause, the breath, they'll let the breath in, they'll let you hear it.
Mm-hmm.
I think it does it connotates this sense of like, this is real, this is imperfect, which makes it there for you. When I heard it the first time before I had seen anything, like in my mind it was like Rick Moranis was singing it. And it was hard for me to explain how much like I was immediately endeared to that.
It's endearing.
It really is.
Yeah, it is.
There's tenderness to it, I think. And I think it's a great, that goes along with a lot of his stuff. It's also a great thing to hear, to be like, right, like art shouldn't always be perfect. Mm-hmm. Art shouldn't always be this note perfect thing. I mean, a lot of what Greg's writing about, some of these songs are, who knows, where he's going in weird directions, but a lot of them, he's writing about heartfelt, sometimes heartbreaking sort of subjects.
Yeah, tell me about the lyrics to this song that we just listened to.
Yeah, this was a really interesting one. This was he took this from a strike. I believe it's what the term burnovers is kind of in reference to, which is an area in upstate New York. Greg, as a lyricist, kind of can latch onto that, get very literal. I mean, like the lyrics are very literal, and you can understand that there's artistic metaphor, but he's not going for that easy thing. He's kind of more, just putting you inside of that world. So as a lyricist, it's really like he can come at you. Yeah, with like obscure history, references to Greek mythology, but then also a classic automotive simile. I can't remember, I think it was the Pitchfork review. The Pitchfork review favorably compared him to Springsteen, which I thought was cool, but I actually was kind of like, I don't think you've really picked the right guy here. I can see why there's similarities there, but like to me, like Springsteen was always like a singer-songwriter who looked into the abyss, like really clearly, and then came back and wrote songs about people dealing with that abyss, which is cool. And I love that. Greg, to me, seems like somebody who looked at the abyss and was like, oh, what a weird vibe. I'm going to explain how weird this vibe is when you stare at it. Mm-hmm. And that was like a very different kind of thing. But I could see like how it achieves a very similar goal. And like it feels quintessentially American in this weird way, of just like, there's a real dystopian sense to a lot of the songs on this record. I think the last time I interviewed him, he had just been holed up in like a cabin he'd been renting in New Mexico for a couple weeks, just kind of chilling there.
Classic singer-songwriter, elusive.
Yeah. You don't ever know what that guy is.
What's he up to?
Where's he at?
The mystique. Mystique is important. Would you say Greg has mystique? I would say Greg absolutely has mystique. Not in a pretentious way, which is the best. My favorite part is like, because there's pretentious mystique for sure. And my favorite thing about Greg's mystique is it's all natural. He's just a naturally mysterious kind of dude. Yeah. And his music has that too. Cool. Well, Chris, thank you so much for joining us on Vermont Edition today. Thanks for having me, John.
You looked at me like a pie in the window pane. I looked back like a mule in some bridal reins.
That was Vermont Edition's Jon Ehrens speaking with music critic Chris Farnsworth of 7 Days. We're hoping to make this a regular thing, so if there's a local band you think we should highlight, you can email us about it at vermontedition@vermontpublic.org. Today's show was directed by Mary Angish. Jon Ehrens is our managing producer. Andrea Lorian, Daniela Fierro, and Aaliyah Papes are our producers. Today's call screener was Kelly Delorier, and our theme music is by Myra Flynn. While I have you, one last reminder that on Wednesday, we are going to be in the town of Grafton in Windham County for our Town by Town series. We're going to be learning all about the town, and if you're in the area, we would love if you could join us. You can snag a free ticket at vermontpublic.org/events. I'm Michaela Lafrac. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll catch up again soon.